concentrate on music. So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our. Actually, I think I will introduce you and let you introduce the panelists, if that's all right.
See, there you go. There you go.
No, no, okay.
Now, I like to check 1 2. Definitely say welcome one, welcome all. Walter Banks Jr., also known as Q Bear, Camel J Radio, and it's definitely a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity. And there's two brothers that we're going to be listening to, and they're going to speak a little bit about the music and the Minneapolis sound. And I knew and know both of them. And we're talking about from very young age to where all three of us are old enough now to consider to be grandfathers and that kind of thing. But the relationship between the three has always been good. There's never been not one negative minus something where we ever actually even had an argument. And I'm talking about out of all the years of being around each other. Because, sometimes we got family members that we have issues with. But then at the same time, you got to learn how to rectify that situation and let it become better in order to continue. And so these are two brothers of mine. So to my immediate right, Mr. Gary Hines, Sounds of Blackness. And via on the Zoom, Mr. Andre Simone.
Hello. I hope y'all can hear me.
Huh?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, they might have to turn you up a little bit.
All right, let me know. If you need me to switch, I can switch to a different.
Anything you could do on your
computer.
end to
Let me
turn
try.
it up or maybe get closer to the
Yeah,
mic.
Let's see. Let's be close. How's that? Is that any better?
Much better.
All right, cool.
Okay, so again, Gary Hines, Sounds of Blackness, Andre Simone, and these two brothers, they've been around music and the music industry for years. And when we talk about the Minneapolis sound, they are a part of that production when it comes to the Twin Cities and the musical aspect of what's been out there. And they are that foundation of parts of the foundation. Because there's many parts of it when it comes to jazz, blues, gospel, reggae, the list goes on when it comes to local artists here in the Twin Cities. So for the both of you, questioning coming out. For each of you, recognized as pioneers for today, can y'all talk about the Minneapolis sound? How did you get started on an individual journey of what you've been through the process of yesterday until today? And we're going to start with that as a question.
Okay.
And whichever one of y'all want to go first, go for it.
What's up, Dre?
What's up, Gary?
Good to see
Man,
you,
I
my
miss
brother.
you, man. I miss you. I miss both. Yeah, good to see you, man.
Always, my brother.
You want to start or you want?
You want to go first?
Doesn't matter. You
Okay,
go first if you
I'll kick
want,
it
or I can
off.
go first.
Okay, I'll kick it off.
Okay, go ahead.
So, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Gary Hines, as Q Bear said, blessed to be the music director of the three-time Grammy Award-winning Sounds of Blackness. We're currently celebrating your Sounds of Blackness. Currently celebrating, as of last month, our 53rd anniversary. And didn't start here, though, in terms of my story with respect to my brother Q Bear's question. I'm a proud native of Yonkers, New York, born and raised there, but been here obviously many years. And it always comes up what brought me and my family from Yonkers, from New York, to Minneapolis. A lot of people don't know, and we were talking about this earlier with my brother over here, that our families go back to the 60s because many people don't know that the Twin Cities was a jazz mecca. Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan, Doris Hines, my late great mother, that played with Maurice Steiner, the great bassist. So that's how our families go back. Were here all the time. In fact, that's what brought us here. Doris Hines was booked for 2 weeks and got held over for a year and fell in love with the Twin Cities. So when we look at Andre and Prince and Jam and Lewis, they didn't just appear. We didn't just appear. They came from a very rich cultural background that was small but very active, especially musically and culturally, Black African American community. So that's, I mean, when you look at parents, Prince's parents, musicians, Cornbread Harris, Jam's dad, and on and on. So. They were here. They were active. There were R&B groups here when we moved from Yonkers that would have rivaled any Motown group. Names I'm sure that you probably don't know, but Showtime Part 1 and 2 at Midwest Express, the Young Players. It goes on and on. Philadelphia Story. They could have rivaled any Motown group. They were blues artists, Lazy Bill Lucas, and of course Cornbread Harris, as we already mentioned. Jazz artists, Maurice Tyner. Okay, so that name's familiar. The great bassist that played with everybody, and so that's the backdrop for an Andre, for a Prince, for a Jam and Lewis, for a Gary Hines, in terms of why we're here, what we evolved from, and the music we came up listening to and standing by and trying to sneak into the black clubs, the Nakarima on the south side, and the Cozy Bar, hear the bass all the way down the street over in North Minneapolis. That music was happening. So when we think, especially like in terms of Prince, and he would, the rest of his soul, be the first to tell you, evolved from that reality. This and it kind of freaked us out when we moved here from New York, because first we were like, where's all the black folks? And the other thing was, the Caucasian people we interacted with in New York were basically darker, Jewish, Italian, and we are like, everybody here is blonde and Scandinavian, which is cool, but it was night and day that time moving from New York to Minneapolis. But nonetheless, that music scene was the cultural scene, very, very, very active. Dre?
Yeah, well, I have to concur with everything you said. Um, you're right about our parents playing music, because I think a lot of people might not know that my father and Prince's dad played in a band together. They were in a jazz band together. In fact, when Prince and I first met, um, we met it in seventh grade. I had no idea he played music. In fact, when he said he played music, I really didn't believe him, because at that point, I didn't know. I was already into it. My journey, basically in the projects, with my dad's upright bass, stereo console, and a huge record collection of music. And I just proceeded to learn every one of those, as many of those records as I could, on my dad's upright bass. In fact, I got to a point where, learning the bass parts got a little boring, so I started learning trumpet solos on bass and horn sax solos on bass, and I think that had a little bit to do with how I created my own little bass style, because it was very different. It was rooted in learning how to play different styles of music on bass. But yeah, no, when I found out, because I was at Prince talked about how he could, man, I can play the piano and I can play the guitar, and at the time I played drums and bass and a little guitar, and my journey with piano was I don't know, a little bit of a nightmare, because you know it seemed like every time I started learning piano, something happened. Like, my aunt was going to teach me, and she's like, you're talented. And then right after she gave me a couple lessons, unfortunately, she passed away. And then we moved, and the house we moved into, they were going to leave us a piano and everything. And we got there, because we got the house through the housing authority. They said, "Oh, you're black. You can't have a piano." So they took it. So I just had a very, so I started thinking maybe piano wasn't for me. And then I finally got, when I started making a little money, doing a little music here and there, I got a nice little piano, and the rest, as far as piano, is history. Um, but but I mean, I really think his black music, because my cousin, those bands that you were talking about, my cousin Tedros Saluki, Teddy Carnett, a lot of people know him different, but he played drums in Midwest Express. He played drums for Maurice McKinnis. He played drums, and so he was had a lot to do with my inspiration, because it was him. He left his drum kit in my mom's basement, so that really kind of got me, not just me, but my sister Linda playing drums, and my cousin, Kathy Bowman, Kathy Mitchell, playing drums. It's like, I mean, our house was just music. It was always music, 24/7. It was just music. So I think that had a lot to do with that particular part. So
Okay, okay. So now let's look at the Minneapolis sound, and let's look at all the different groups and stuff that are out there, all the different groups that you know that you've heard of, and then now we have to define what exactly is the Minneapolis sound. So now, as the creators that you two are, what would you say that the Minneapolis sound is? What does it sound like? Because we got different genres of music out there, and we got a whole lot of different local artists even here still today. So looking at that, what would you say the Minneapolis sound is? What does that sound?
Well, for me, the prototype that embodies the Minneapolis sound is funk and soul and jazz fusion based. So, as embodied by artists like at the top of the list, of course, the Godfather James Brown, Sly Stone, that's very horn driven, drum and bass driven, and that's interesting. And I'm glad Trey brought up the drum aspect because part of that, the reason for that, a lot of the people that you know and love now, hopefully love, actually began as drummers. Okay. Weathers is Morris Day. Now we think of him, as lead singer at the time, and of course he is and still is. But Morris will wear you out on a drum set. Okay, so many of us. I began as a drummer. I know Prince, as Andre said, drums are so the rhythm. Really was king. So for the Minneapolis sound, to me, it's a potpourri of funk, soul, jazz fusion, driven both even with the ballads, where the progressions, are heavy on the driving drums, the foundation bass, and very horn driven. Even if it was a synth horn with the synth players.
Drake?
yeah, again, I think he's spot on. Because definitely Morris. I mean, people don't know Morris is. I mean, that's a lot of people might not know this. How Morris actually got into our band. A lot of I know a lot of people assume Prince did everything. But the reality is, I brought in William Dowdy, our percussionist. I brought in my sister Linda on keyboards. I brought in Terry Jackson on percussion. I brought in Morris, and Morris used to sweat me about how great he was on drums, right? And I had heard from few different drummers, about how great they was and all that, and finally Morris, we wound up in school together in North, and he finally got me and he said, man, you got to come hear me play. So I went to hear him play and he wore them drums out. And I was like, okay, I think we got a new drummer. Come on down to our rehearsal space and the rest is history. But yeah, no, the Minneapolis sound, it's an interesting thing, really. I mean, I think it depends on how you want to look at it. I mean, I know what people talk about as the Minneapolis sound, because they talk about Prince and what came out in the 80s and obviously the 90s. But just to understand how that evolved, for those who don't know, we had a band called Grand Central that wound up being, well, it started off as Soul Explosion, then it went to Grand Central, and then it went to Champagne and all of that. But we were trying to create demo tapes, and our first demo tape was kind of rejected, um, and so we had to really kind of come up with something, really kind of specific to try to get these folks that that were interested in our band to really pay it to try to sign us to a record deal, which is what we was trying to do. So we, at the time, Prince was living at my mom's house, and we were down my mom's basement, and we were just basically woodshed trying to come up with different things here and there. And I mean, So I think really, you're spot on with the horn thing because we didn't more money than we did. We didn't have no money, so all we had was really my sister and Prince, and between the two of them, they kind of came up with this sort of hybrid of just sort of compensating horn parts because we play all the songs. In fact, the one thing that I need to address because I think a lot of people always try to say who's best, like which band is best because we obviously there was a lot of battle of the bands. And we won a lot of them. There's a couple of them that we did win, but we won a lot of them. And I really can't say anybody is better than anybody, really. I mean, because really, I mean, I love Flight Time. I thought they was, I thought they was, I love Sounds of Blackness. I loved, uh, Cohesion. I loved, Back to Black, which wound up being The Family. I mean, everybody to me were amazing. Inside it was different. And I think that's a little more perhaps unique than some of the other bands is we really didn't engage in top 40 like some of the other bands did that we would perform with. We actually got into you know, abstract singles and bands by like groups like Cold Blood or Rare Earth and I don't know, just Grand Funk Railroad, which was partly where we got the name Grand Central from. So we got into a lot of different stuff that wasn't just R&B, wasn't just black music. We got into played a lot of Santana. We just got into a lot of eclectic, weird stuff. It got us into a lot of times we get really kind of overlooked in the local community because we wasn't always doing what I guess we were supposed to be doing. But I think that had a lot to do with the kind of sound our first demo tape was a nightmare. So, so I mean, and that's why we had to go back and do a different kind of a thing. But anyway, I think that had a lot to do with the Minneapolis, what was preceded. And then obviously Prince's album came out and, which obviously I don't know, for those who know, I was there. I mean, he played everything, have jam sessions. And so jam sessions, a lot of songs got created that way. But his album came out. I was there for, right there in San Francisco while we worked on that first album, second album in Los Angeles, third album we did, he had a crib in Orono. And then my album came out. And then that was a whole different because I wanted to do something completely different from what, he was doing. So I created this sort of, new wave kind of thing. And, and that had a whole sound of its own. And then, Morris at the time, Morris was, Morris was kind of too, what we was doing. Because at the time he wasn't involved in any of that. So he wound up kind of being our sort of videographer, and then I said, look, we got to do something with Morris because he's too good to just be, just playing it, just doing videography. It's just one of the baddest drummers I know. I thought at the time, he should be in the band that we was doing, but Prince he had a very unique kind of thing that he wanted to do, and he wanted to do kind of a Sly and the Family Stone kind of thing, like Gary was saying. And so, so I said, we got to do something for Morris. So, I happen to know Flight Time was doing some stuff. I said, maybe you hook up with Flight Time and everybody, I mean, that's one of the cool things about Minneapolis, which is I think also a part of the Minneapolis sound, is the community. I mean, the community, Q-Bear, all of y'all, if it wasn't for the community, there wouldn't be no Minneapolis. Nobody would know anything about us. I mean, really. I mean, I think about my mom and Liz Samuels and Spike Moss and all of those folks, man. If it wasn't for those folks giving us some of these opportunities that we had, in the communities and, I mean, people like, shoot, man, what's the name? Cynthia, God, what's her name? Uh, Gameba, all those guys, man, they used to run this thing. They had us playing on these gigs that opened so many doors, man. God, what is her? I mean, I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. It'll come back to me. But the Cousin Brothers, They all, I mean, all of these brothers, man, they used to do so many cool things and gave us opportunities to perform. And, opportunities give you confidence, and the community, I think, gave us the confidence to believe we could kick anybody's behind on any world stage, whether it was in Minneapolis or, St. Paul or Chicago or the world ultimately, the thing about me is I've always been very, very confident as a musician, especially as a bass player, because, my dad, like I said, my dad was a bass player and learning how to play all them songs. I didn't think anybody could touch me. And I was always very, very cocky and confident, and maybe too cocky and confident. But I think you need that, to be able to get people to really pay attention. So anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but that's my perspective on the Minneapolis sound. Oh, and I also have to mention, the girls. I mean, because a lot of people girls came out, and then obviously Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis came out doing what they did. I mean, they just blew things open, and the Sounds of Blackness came out, just blew it open on a whole nother level. I mean, I mean, I'm so proud of where I come from. I'm so proud, and more than any proud is the community that I grew up in, that I was able to grow up in. I mean, it's been a blessing for me. So.
All right, all right. And then, just to add into that, when he's talked about the Battle of the Bands, there was this thing that took place at the Way, which was on Plymouth Avenue. And that's what he's speaking about when we're talking about the Battle of the Bands. And one of the things that, for me and being around it and around them is the blessing side of seeing it, to know that I got friends out there that not only just played local, but they also played national on a lot of these national groups, and I'm talking about worldwide, that are still doing it today. And it's just a blessing to see some of them still playing, out of all of these years and still sticking with it, because that musical industry is a different animal when it comes to getting on the inside. And we might have time to get in on that side of it as well. But then also looking at the Battle of the Bands and seeing, like, Dre just got done saying, they won most of the competitions, but they didn't win all of them. But me personally, and being at the radio station as many years as I have, I would put the Minneapolis sound and those groups and those artists, and even the artists that are playing today, pound for pound against anybody in any state. And I'm telling you, we will win time after time and time again. They started at a very young age, and then they were competing against a lot of the older groups and sounding just as good at that young age. And so we have to give that tribute to Spike Moss and the other groups over at the Way Community Center, because it really was about community, like Dre said. And it really is about all of us together as a unit and doing what needs to be done in order for all of us to be successful in what we have the opportunity to do. And it's just that little opportunity that makes a difference of it continuing. And looking at it in today's time, because we know that, like in the 80s and the 90s and the Minneapolis sound and what it looked like back then. But then looking at the transition of the musical sound of today's time, is there still room for the Minneapolis sound in today's time? And the reason why I say that is because of the radio side and seeing a lot of different things, and they talk about markets and that kind of thing. Is there still room for the Minneapolis sound in today's time, 2024?
Well, to me, absolutely. In fact, we need to make sure we continually embrace and proclaim the Minneapolis sound, because if we don't, others will. And what I mean is, there have been worldwide hits that were the Minneapolis sound, but not Minneapolis. When you look at Bruno Mars and Uptown Funk, Dre, that's straight up Minneapolis, and but not acknowledge Minneapolis sound. So there's room with the younger artists, not only the classic Minneapolis sound, but as Dre was saying, it's so eclectic in terms of genre and mode and scope. So that there's the prototype sound, but then there's the expanse of that sound as well. And there are groups today. There's a young family group called None Above. I'm sure you're familiar with them. They have a whole new take. They're a sibling group, four siblings. They're amazingly talented, and they've got a whole new take on the Minneapolis sound. But when you listen to them, and some of you may have seen them, they've like done the anthem at Twins games and Vikes and all that, and done some sets and all that kind of thing. So yes, there's definitely still room for the Minneapolis sound in its traditional sense and sound cue, and in the evolution of the Minneapolis sound as well. And so that's my answer to that. And if I could just piggyback a little bit on what Dre was saying in terms of the previous question, there was a reason. Grand Central and Flight Time and on all those groups that didn't have the exposure that they could and should have had, especially at that time. Um, Thankfully, you mentioned Spike Moss, and they would make opportunities for us to play many times. And Dre, you remember this, like a Grand Central or Flight Time, whatever, and would be part of the same program. They Sounds of Blackness. We would open up for the annual Urban League dinner, but then Grand Central would be the party band after the after set kind of thing. So spending a lot of time backstage. So that was there, but those opportunities, Miss Black Minnesota pageant, the Urban League dinner, and an event called the North Side Festival that drew thousands of people. Yeah, I know you remember that one, Moss. That drew thousands of people to the old Phyllis Wheatley and the grounds kind of thing. Peacefully, thousands of people that came and had a great time, and you guys would always close it out. We would frequently open it up, that whole scenario kind of thing. So and Q mentioned the opportunity because the reality of the time, a lot of back in the day, my Caucasian buddies who I worked out with at the gym, some of them were bouncers at some of the clubs, and they would say, Gare, the owners are telling us, to not let black people in or not let too many in, and they're keeping the black bands. And so we knew that firsthand from the horse's mouth that those opportunities were being denied to play those clubs. But people like Spike Moss made those opportunities for us to play.
Mhm. Yep.
Dre?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think when is it the culture for the Minneapolis sound, I think that's how that started, right? If I'm not mistaken. Um, is that right? I don't want to get off topic. Oh, I think we froze. There we go.
Yeah, we can hear you now. You were breaking up a little bit though.
Okay. Yeah, I was just I didn't want to get off topic, but I was just thinking, is this where you were talking about the where the Minneapolis sound, the future, um, and where it's going, that kind of thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't think, obviously, I'm about to drop the Resurrection of Funk album. Um, and that's like, I've done, personally, it's a return to the true funk style that I was originally, kind of trying to work on back in the day. Um, and kind of using some of the influences that Gary talked about, Sly and the Family Stone, Ohio Players, just groups that were really, funkadelic, groups that used to, really kind of inspired us. So I'm going back to there because I think, music has taken such a turn, in terms of all this really kind of synthetic music. It's do I want a record that just sort of makes a statement, um, that funk is alive, and that funk is alive and well. Funk is so good. I want to funk and tell. So, I just want to, kind of bring it back. And the other thing I want to do is, Gary, you might not know this, brother, but I want to work with y'all. Man, I've written some songs, like I've written about 4 or 5 songs that I think would be really great to do collaboration with you, with the Sounds of Blackness, that spirit. And I think that that's something that really needs to be done. And to speak on some of the artists that are still doing stuff, I mean, you got people like he said, there's a few groups, local groups. For one, Stokely's still is out there doing stuff, and he's making some serious noise. And that brother, he's doing some stuff with Sean LaBelle. I know he's doing some stuff on his own. He's doing stuff with other local Minneapolis artists. Um, and there's a lot of groups out there. So there's a lot of things happening. I'm, obviously working on a few different, things, but I think the Minneapolis sound is going to be all right. It's going to keep on moving. I think we're going to keep on making sure that happens.
Dre, let's do that collaboration. We'd be honored, man. In the words of
Yeah, no, I'm
Ray Charles would say, "Make it do what it do."
Make it do what it do,
make it
man.
do what it do.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
to, same question to you as well, Gary, because it's like since Dre went, because that was my next question was, what are you guys working on currently? So that we can know and get an idea of what's coming up around the corner in 2025. And so Dre, he must have read my script. So, yeah, that's that insight that he got.
Yeah, he always has had it too. A visionary brother, not to embarrass you, brother, but you always have been. And man, we are looking forward to that collaboration for real, for real. Okay, we'll hook up, later today. Communication, but in terms of what Sounds of Blackness has been currently doing and looking to do, and especially now excited about this collaboration, brother. You don't know. Um, we have been for the past 5 or 6 years in anthem mode, is what I would say. Anthem mode with releasing singles because, as you probably know, now the music industry is singles driven. Used to be album driven, as Dre knows, but now it's singles driven. So, but we've been releasing singles as part of the different manifestations of the movement in terms of social justice, equality, and so. When the Black Lives Matter movement really took off, they didn't have a theme song. The civil rights movement had "We Shall Overcome," and actually, the first civil rights song was not "We Shall Overcome." It was the great Billie Holiday's "Strange Fruit" about the lynchings and all that. So artists. Until today, most artists, nowadays, that's why we encourage the young heads, were always conscious and contributed music to the movement. And so we did the song Black Lives Matter. Thank God KMOJ and a handful of stations across the country, and Cuba and all, what we're talking about this beforehand, had the courage to play it. We stayed in that, and then when our brother George Floyd was murdered 5 blocks from where we rehearsed at Sabathia Community Center, in the heart of the black community, South Minneapolis, the words of the great Fannie Lou Hamer came to us. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was telling Q Bear, when George was murdered, I was actually getting calls from PDs, program directors around the country saying, Gary, man, the eyes of the world in Minneapolis, we need another optimistic, we need a happy song. But something happened at the rally the first night after George was murdered. I'll never forget. We were all there. It was a Tuesday because that's normally our rehearsal night. I canceled that rehearsal, and we were all at the rally, and there were tens of thousands of people there. The media downplayed how many. White, black, Asian, young, old, everybody was there on the corner of what we now call George Floyd Square. And this young white teenage young lady came up to me, and she had a Black Lives Matter sign, and she recognized me from the group, and she said, "Hey, Mr. Sounds of Blackness, you guys are one of my favorite groups, and I bet you're going to do a song about this." And then I'll never forget what she said after that. She said, "Please do me a favor, don't make it a happy song." And I said, "Young lady, that will not happen." And so that's what I had to tell those program directors. They wanted another optimistic, and I get that. But the mood of the time was so much righteous indignation that if we had come out with a "Don't Worry, Be Happy" song, we would have probably been seen as part of the problem and not getting it. Okay. So the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, "Sick and Tired." And then "Time for Reparations," when the Congressional Black Caucus introduced the HR reparations bill, HR 40, and it's amazing how many people think the move for reparations is new. It's like, can you say mid 1800s? 40 acres and a mule, but it needed a song. And then when the woke movement came up, that's when
Yeah.
we came up with woke. So along with our singles, "You're Gonna Win" by our own Jamesia Bennett, and "Hold Up Your Light." But we've been in anthem mode, for that, in terms of anthems for the movement, and are so excited, to do with whatever Dre has, because this brother is a monster.
No,
And just
just to
oh,
sort
go
of
ahead, Dre. I'm
piggyback,
sorry.
go ahead. I was gonna say to sort of piggyback off of that because it's true. I mean, when you have moments, of upheaval, especially in the Black community, you got to speak on it. I've always been, I get in, you have no idea how much trouble I get in because I did a song called, well, when Trayvon was murdered, I did a song called Trayvon, which was a tribute to Trayvon and donated because it was the first time I'd taken a 27-year break from music for a while. And then my first kind of thing coming back was to try to, um, help get Barack Obama reelected. So I did a song, and dedicated, and tried to get everybody to pay attention, as many people as I could. And then with Trayvon, I did a song for Trayvon and donated proceeds to his family and whatever they needed. And then Hot Night in the Neighborhood when Freddie Gray was killed. Oh no, um, yeah, I think Freddie Gray. I mean, it was just there's been so many brothers killed at the hands of the police. And then George Floyd, Black Man in America. And I also did a song called, Black Lives Matter. So, I mean, oh, Our World is on Fire. I mean, it's just, I always try to get into the spirit because, I just really think as artists, you know, um, you know, you got to speak out. And Gary's right. I mean, it used to be an album driven uh, business, not a singles driven business. And really, quite frankly, I think what these platforms was they're really trying to keep trying to road voices be heard and be able to have the power that music is supposed to have because music is powerful. Music is magic. I think, not everybody can do it. So that's why they call it a gift, and not effectively. And not everybody can have something to say that people really need to hear that inspire people, their presence to bring change, because we need that so, so bad, and really, I mean, you think about history and music and how powerful music has been throughout history, whether it's with, songs that Earth, Wind, and Fire did, Keep Ahead of the Sky. I mean, really, the list goes on and on. And what you guys did with Optimistic and what you did during the George, I mean, I pay attention to everything. A lot of times people don't understand that, but I'm always, you know, so I just think that, we got to continue that. And that's also part of the Minneapolis music legacy, in my opinion, is that we get involved. We get involved on the aspect. And yeah.
And one of the things that I love about these two brothers is their consciousness about life within itself. And if you listen close to them and closely to them, you'll understand that they mean what they say when they say it. And that creativity comes out within their music itself. But to the both of you, what is it that you would like for the listening audience, the fans, and all of that to get out of your music? Because everything has a purpose and a reason. And I understand it closely and from a distance with the both of y'all.
Well, for me, it's about humanity, um, life, affirmation, equality, unity, harmony, and all of those positive things that music and musical message and inspiration is all about. That is part of our African tradition. Okay, that music is the lifeblood, and not only medicine, but a part of every aspect of life: birth, death, marriage, politics, war, education, music at the heart. So, music not for art's sake, but music for life's sake. And coming through 400 years of the most inhumane form of slavery that the world has ever seen, um, but for the music at the center, still in the creative, you could take the African out of Africa, but you cannot take the Africa out of the African. And so, as African people, the music was the lifeblood, whether it was through the Underground Railroad and hidden encoded messages right in front of the slave master, to getting through the work songs and the field hollers, through sun up to sundown, back-breaking labor, all of those, and even keeping sanity and going on after seeing a family member lynched and or castrated or burned or all of the above. So the music, so it's real serious stuff. The music, the heartbeat of that. And so we want and need to continue that tradition, that legacy of music being the lifeblood of what needs to happen now in terms of awareness. It begins with history. And going harping back to George Floyd for a moment, just to bring this point home quickly, Q Bear. I did a lot of interviews, and a lot of people asked, what can we do? What can we do? And they meant it, and I knew it was heartfelt. And my answer surprised them. I said, "Be a student of history first and foremost." And they were like, "Well, that's not tangible." The reason for that is because no matter how well meaning you are, no matter how many dollars you put in, no matter how many boards and committees and organizations you sit in on, if you don't know my history, if you don't know the contributions of my people to your life, to this country, to the world, it's impossible to see me as an equal, even if you want to. So, history is the key. And that's why I say history equals humanity, and nothing conveys that history and humanity better than the music.
Dre?
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything that he says. Because I think words that he uses that I would want to focus on, and he said unity, and because I think in order to get where we need to as a society, as humans, is unity. And I think what he's talking about in terms of understanding history, because people run around and act like black people just came and and ain't doing stuff. I mean, we've created so many things. We've invented so many things that have made everybody's life, better, more comfortable. Heart, stoplight, radiator, air conditioner, lawnmower, peanut butter, rock and roll, funk, jazz, so many things we come up with. Unfortunately, very often it got taken from us and somebody else got the credit. But the reality is we did it. And and when I talk about unity, I mean, I have to say, I think there's a lot of beautiful people that want to see this country, the world, move forward, keep moving. I mean, I can't wait for the day where we don't have to go back and talk about our past, because it's not a beautiful thing. I mean, there's a lot of ugly in our past, and it would be great to fill that void with where we are now, where we've come, where we've gotten to. I mean, we have to keep going back to the past because people seem to keep forgetting, so that's why. But, I want to go back because when you think about Martin Luther King, when you think about, George Floyd, you think about, those people that were marching in front. But if you look behind, there's legions of white folks, Hispanics, Asians marching right with us because they want to see they want to see the world progress as well. So, I mean, I feel that makes me feel optimistic, that that there's a future that we can, one day, enjoy, and our kids and our grandkids can enjoy that, because really I think there's that people are going to continue to try to keep bringing it back because people feel like they're losing control of their position of being able to have some sort of omnipotence over other people. There's this somebody decided there needed to be some class system, and so they got to keep people in some sort of perspective. I just don't believe in that. And I really believe a lot of people don't believe that, and so I just sort of feed off of that, that vision of the future, because I think obviously you got to keep writing something, because like I said before, music is powerful. So you got to keep saying and making people understand you as much as you. I mean, they're really. I hate to get into the whole aspect of how they're controlling. What we hear. Social media has now been sort of um, narrowed down to a few platforms here and there, and they're controlled by people who really get to pick and choose what we get to hear. And when I think about exposure, is really how much of that is really I don't know. So for a second because you're frozen. But if you can hear me, can you hear me?
We can now again. Yeah,
Okay,
broke
so
up.
I would say I don't know how much of our cultural exposure is actually, you know, put forward by us and not somebody saying, okay, this is what we're gonna choose for, for people to consume Black culture. And so we're gonna only offer this to this program or this to that program. And so are we of our cultural representation? We have to ask ourselves that question, because it's an important question. Because when you look at the world, some folks get to just have all kinds of exposure on all kinds of different levels, all kinds of different movies, and then but when they greenlight certain things for our consumption, it's sort of narrowed to a stereotype, and that needs to change. It needs to be because if is as we know in the Black community is comprised of so many different things. Again, like I was speaking earlier, I was talking about the community in which we grew up in, and I remember the woman's name. It was Shirley Calloway. They we had island type stuff. We had all kind of different kinds of themes. That was when I first got hip to Bob Marley and all of that. And so I mean, really, I just think we got to get to that utopian kind of spiritual world where we all, there's no class system. We're all equal and we're all contributing to the fabric of the future, the fabric of a beautiful world. And that's what I aspire to do every day. So
So, to the both of you, if by chance I missed a question or two, is there anything else either you'd like to add?
I would just invite all of you, extended family of Sounds of Blackness, to engage with us. Our website, soundsofblackness.org. If you type .com, it's still going to go there, so that's okay. Communicate with us. What you will hear back from us, it won't be some intern or some machine. It will be us, probably me. Um, and we're on all the different social platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn. Send us or go to our website as well. And two things: if you purchase anything off of our website, our merchandise or our music, we donate a portion of the proceeds to the George Floyd Scholarship Foundation. So we don't just talk the walk; we walk the talk. And you would be contributing that way. And in terms of what we got coming up immediately, kind of thing, will be a week from tonight at the Capri Theater for the community honoring our elders. So we invite you all out to that, the Capri Theater. I think that's like 6:30, 7 o'clock, a week from tonight. And then a week from tomorrow night, we'll be at the Minnetonka, I think it's called City Auditorium, for their Black History celebration. And we remind everybody that Black History Month starts January 1st and ends December 31st. So
thank you.
the one thing we like about McDonald's is they're saying Black History 365. So I don't eat a lot of McDonald's, but I love that saying. And the final thing, please look for our current singles, "You're Gonna Win" by our own Jamesia Bennett, "Hold Up Your Light" by our own Carrie Harrington, and "Woke" with Sounds of Blackness. And those songs, we're so blessed. I'll close out with this. I'll be looking for later this year. There's a PBS special. Hold On to Your Hearts, my sister's brother Idris Elba. Okay, I anticipated that reaction. His production, we are blessed. Sounds of Blackness were approached earlier this year. He's doing a six part. Calm down, my sister. I ain't mad at you though. I ain't mad. You know, the brother got it like that. Q. What can I say? But you know, we were approached earlier this year about actually no, that was later last year. Forgive me. About contributing music to a six part a series. So be looking for this series coming up. It's called Paid in Full, reparations in black music. And it's got everybody, Jay Z, excuse me, Beyonce, all that kind of thing. But they're dealing with reparations specifically as it relates to black music and musicians, and real deep, Dre. And you know the interesting thing was they Googled all the different music groups and all that kind of thing, and looking for somebody that had music about reparations, and Sounds of Blackness was the only one. So we're going to be blessed to be featured on that soundtrack for that. So look for that. Again, it's called "Paid in Full: Black Music Reparations" by Idris Elba, and I'm sorry, sisters, and his wife.
Um, yeah, I guess in closing for me, it's just obviously I got a record coming out. I'm trying to figure out how to get it out strategically so people can hear it. Because sometimes, again, you got to navigate all these different platforms and try to get it out. Because I've always been pretty independent. I don't know if I'm gonna do that this time or not. We'll see. But it's called The Resurrection of Funk. I'm gonna try to get it out this summer. So I'd love to make this the summer of funk. Um, and then, I mean, I'm working obviously on a few different projects. Some things I really can't talk very much about. People have always been after me about writing a book, so I think I'm going to engage in that finally, so people can really understand, you know, um, the real history, how things actually, happen. Because now you got all kinds of people rewriting history, and it's like, the unfortunate thing about, well, there's many unfortunate things about where things are at right now, in terms of, after, Prince left us, people have stepped in and started telling stories that don't even make any sense. So I really, I had always hoped that he would do, you know, a true film about, our story. He didn't have to do it, 'cause, you don't think he really talked about himself, me and my family and all that kind of stuff. But, unfortunately, he passed before he was able to do that. But he didn't know I was working on a couple of things that he was really excited about. He knew, he, you know, I get it about things. My thing isn't really all that flattering personally because, I mean, I was always into, some different stuff, but, you know, um, but I think overall it would be great. So look forward to that. I would also say really support, the Capri and support, the community. And I really would love to see the city sort of step up and get more involved in putting money into the community and really kind of, supporting these things, supporting young artists. I mean, because there's a lot of, really good up and coming artists out there. I mean, there's let's see, there's um Astral Black is a group that I actually, kind of was listening to a minute ago. They had some, kind of Minneapolis, their own funk with a little jazz fusion, and just had a vibe. And there's a group in St. Paul, MG Studios, are doing some stuff over there. There's some things going on. There's Duasala, I think that's how you say her name. She's really cool. Um, let's see, there's quite a few groups out that I always try to keep my ear to the street, to the ground, and to what's coming up. And so yeah, support your local artists, support clubs. I would love to do a thing at the Capri with Gary. I'd love to do a thing at in Minneapolis, just to get back to what we what made us, what gave us our sort of our light. And so I'd love to get back to that. And Q Bear, I mean, he's always supported us. I mean, way back, but we've been blessed. We've been blessed because a lot of folks really supported us when, a lot of people don't know, but when nobody really gave a thing about us, we had a community that did, fortunately. So thanks to y'all, we exist. and we can speak on these programs and have these forums. And I look forward to the next one.
No doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up. Andre Simone, Gary Hines. And 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 for me, I just want to say to the both of y'all that I love you. I love you. I love you. And thank you very much for just being in my life, because without you two, there's no me. And I really mean that in the aspects of how we grew up, things we've been through, and coming to understanding. Because like I said, we've never had a argument out of our lifetime. And that's really unheard of when how we deal with each other on a consistent basis and on a daily basis. And so I encourage everybody to just get to know your family, even though you have some issues with them. Tell them it's okay. Don't always get into the argument or the debate and then make it into something that it doesn't have to be. And then besides that, if there's something else that's going on
Yes.
that you're dealing with, talk to somebody in order to get some help or some assistance in order to make it better for you. Because one of the things that I think out of all of this is there's definitely the messages in the music. If you listen to some of the lyrical content of some of these artists, there's a message in the music. But even beyond that, if we don't communicate with each other, regardless of our skin color, if we don't communicate with each other, we'll never understand each other. And that's just me being me. And thank you very much, Brian Tyner, for the opportunity. I love you, bro,
Thank you for coming.
and appreciate it. And you can listen to me on 89.9 KMOJ Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 afternoon drive time.
Gonna be late today. All right, give me another hand for Andre Simone, Gary Hines, and Walter Q. Bear Banks. All right, I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing on the screen, but I can't figure it out, so I'm just going to tell you about it. All right, so we got some more events coming up that I want to tell everybody about. We're going to be celebrating all month long. Next week on February 14th, right here in this room from noon to 1:30, we're going to have a program called Black and Belonging. So make sure you're here for that. On Wednesday, the 21st, we'll have a mindfulness and higher creativity with Joy Quadu, thank you. All right. It's an online yoga experience, so that one I will probably sit out. Uh, we're also going to do Black History Trivia at North Point Conference Center, 1256 North Penn Avenue, North on that day. I think I'll be there. Thursday, February 22nd, is the really big event. It's the Civil Rights History Makers at Home award ceremony. We have some great award winners this year. It's going to be at the Capri Theater at 2027 West Broadway Avenue, which we were just talking about. Support the Capri. This will be your first opportunity. All right. And then Wednesday the 28th, we're going to do Rock Your Crown. It's a hair show. It's going to be right here again in this room, celebrating Black hairstyles and also celebrating the Crown. Help me out. Act. Thank you. I was going to call it the law. All right, the Crown Act. And finally, we're going to light up the Laurie Avenue Bridge in honor of Black History Month to wrap it all up on the 29th. So again, I hope to see you the rest of the month. I hope to see you every day. But thank you all for coming.
Bye-bye.